Pawan Duggal, cybercrime security expert, is with us, as is N S Nappinai, advocate of the Supreme Court of India and founder of Cyber Sathi. Welcome to all of you and thank you so much. Ms. Bowanker, absolute pleasure to have you on the show. So glad that you've joined us today on a very important subject. Now we'll of course wait to see what this three-member SIT finds out. But on the face of it, if we believe this version, that this girl filmed herself and sent it to her friend of her own violation consensually, is there a law under which she can be arrested?
No, if it is with her consent, it's not illegal, but it's an extremely dangerous act on the part of this young girl. I would like to quote three incidents. In one incident, when a girl shared such a video with her boyfriend, he later on tried to exploit her, and this girl threatened me with suicide, that as a police officer, now please come and rescue me, and if you don't, I will commit suicide. The second case is of a doctor couple who found their own daughter having recorded these kinds of acts, and they were so much in panic. And third case, where parents a day before the wedding of their daughter found out that there were some such videos which were highly objectionable in their mind, and they were in circulation, and they felt that the marriage may not materialize. So even if it is not illegal, we keep advising girls not to record and not to share these videos, these photographs. And this particular case, when so many students have come in protest, I feel there could be something more than what meets the eyes.
I wanted to ask you, ma'am, Dr. Bowanker, that the accused lawyer is saying it was just her, the police are saying it was just her, the hostel authorities are saying it was just her. Could really have all these students gone wrong? That there was some kind of panic hysteria that spread through the hostel because they realized that she's filming herself? You know, someone who's cracked so many high-profile cases, what's your preliminary observation of all of these conflicting versions?
So I feel that the panic amongst the students has to be taken seriously, and the forensics of phones of both the girls and her boyfriend, that should be taken on an urgent basis, and we'll be able to find out whether it's only one particular video or whether there are other videos and whether they have been shared. In fact, Chandigarh also has very good forensic labs, so we should be able to get the phone forensic results within 24 hours.
What about the role of the warden over here and the hostel authorities who are saying that there was no such thing? Do you think that their role also needs to be probed?
I would say it will be premature to conclude at this particular juncture. Let's wait for the phone forensics. Let's wait for the preliminary report of the SIT, and Punjab Police Mohali SP, I know the additional DG community policing, Gurpreet Deo. They're very serious officers. Please trust them and give them 24 hours.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, we also wanted to pick up this story, one, because of all of the conflicting statements, and it was important to make sense of what's happening. And the other is because of the big cautionary tale. And I'm going to come to N S Nappinai on this. There are more than enough laws on paper to protect the data and the privacy of citizens, but very few that actually safeguard people. I mean, you have case upon case of morphed pictures being circulated, videos like this taken perhaps consensually or non-consensually being used as a tool for extortion, threat, blackmail, rape victims being, you know, filmed and then blackmailed. Are there enough laws to guarantee protection? I mean, I gave the example of the voyeurism law. It seems to be very gender specific.
Absolutely right, Tamanna. You have enough laws. Ultimately, what matters is how well or how effectively a law is implemented. And that not just once, but consistently so. So when we are able to show that laws are being consistently implemented and they work towards victim protection, that's when you have a better safety scenario. So I just thought I'll share this one instance. It was not in India, but in US, in one instance, it's not clear as to why the lady did what she did, but you know that there are a lot of places where people are very comfortable in terms of changing, etc., and it's not necessarily inside a toilet. So this lady who was in a ladies' toilet filmed a much older person changing in the ladies' toilet, and then the video went viral. And she started shaming the victim also in terms of the kind of messages that she was putting along with the imagery. So these kind of instances happen where often people may not even realize that they are committing crimes. It's not just the violation of somebody's privacy, but also that it's a criminal act. So it's important to know that apart from the provisions that you already mentioned, there are also provisions such as 67, 67A, and 67B under the IT Act, which make dissemination of obscene content, sexually explicit content, and the last instance, 67B, which is for child sexual abuse content. Each of these a criminal offense. So where the victim is a minor, then you're subject to prosecution under 67B. So again, these are gender neutral provisions and will come into the effect of victims irrespective of which gender they belong to. So you have a few more provisions also which come into effect. So it's not
Sure.
about adding more sections, it's more about how well they are implemented.
And how to catch the person. I mean, it's insidious, right? Say, if I take it at first face value, this girl shot her own video, sent it to her friend. She doesn't know where it's going to go after that. She doesn't know whether, even if that boyfriend did not want to leak her video, he loses his phone. I want to understand from you, Pawan Duggal, what are the dangers? Someone might think that they're doing something in an intensely private moment. They're not covered by the law in the sense it's not a criminal act to shoot yourself and then perhaps share that footage, as I understand it. But what are the dangers?
There are immense dangers. I think we have to refrain ourselves from becoming part of the great Indian vomiting revolution, where all Indians seem to be vomiting all kinds of data about their personal, professional, and social lives without even thinking about the legal or the policy ramifications pertaining to the same. But I think I tend to disagree with the fact that if you shoot your own self in an obscene stuff, you don't actually commit a crime. Section 67 of the Information Technology Act 2000 is crystal clear. So the moment even I go ahead and make my own MMS, I actually publish and costly publish electronic information that is lascivious or which appeals to the prurient interests, or the effect of which is to tend to deprave and corrupt the minds of those who, having regard to the relevant circumstances, are likely to see, read, and hear the same. Now, you could be lucky in this case. You have currently gone on remand, but you have to thank your stars because the police has not invoked Section 67 of the IT Act. And the two sections that are invoked may not be directly applicable to the girl in question because 66A E does not apply to a person who films his own self. So that's off. And voyeurism is in any case off because that deals with a man and not a woman. So you can either be lucky in that regard, or you can just be careful to say that, look, any activity that you do online is going to have legal ramifications. So there's no tearing hurry for you to capture your private moments on a phone. And our perception or a conception that because the phone is in my hand or purse, it's the most secure device, is something that we need to instantaneously disregard. Actually, as Indians, we do a wonderful lip service towards cyber security, but we hardly do anything on cyber security. It's time for us to realize that in this new data economy age, our data is the new oil. And protecting that data becomes our topmost priority, not only for our own personal benefit, but also for protection of our own rights and our own privacy. And in this ecosystem, till such time we don't really start adopting cybersecurity as a way of life, we will have challenges.
The thought just crossed my mind when you talked about this, and I'll come to Dr. Bowanker on the question of Section 67E. Is it really an offense to film yourself? But the thought that just crossed my mind is that all of us speaking about this here are not from the generation who was possibly born with a smartphone in their hands or had one since they were a toddler. And our concept of sharing yourself is very, very different from theirs. And that's something I think we should also discuss as an aspect of this entire story. But Dr. Bowanker, is it illegal to film yourself at your own time on your own phone?
No, I don't think it's illegal. And as for your observation that our generation did not have smartphones, I would like to share that this is my observation that young police officers, they are very smart. So when these cases take place, like we are waiting for the forensics report, young police officers are able to trace the accused, find out evidence, but it's better to prevent than to detect and go in for conviction. So I would like to make use of this forum today to appeal to all young girls, to appeal to the young boys, that let's be careful about exploitation on the basis of data sharing, which they are not doing responsibly.
What is really the cautionary tale in terms of having your video out there, Dr. Bowanker? Because you also have cases of people morphing videos, taking your picture, putting it on some other video, and then using it for blackmail. The entire loan app scam modus operandi is based on this. When, people are extorting money, saying that they have put some other video in place. What is the way to protect yourself?
So there are two issues. One is that exploitation on the basis of data sharing, especially in case of women, goes unreported. One. And secondly, morphing is taking place in India also. Sometimes the girls keep quiet, sometimes they come to us, and we are able to identify a case where there is genuine sharing of data or where there is morphing. So another point which we should share with the youth is that in case you are being exploited, please approach the nearest police station or cyber cell. In case of morphing also, I've already shared our young officers are very good at it. They are able to detect cases of morphing, and they're also able to detect the cases of genuine sharing of objectionable data. And we have very good investigating teams. So we can identify where there is a genuine case and where there is morphing.
Yeah. Ms. Nappinai, your point on the legality, because we have two different views right now. And Mr. Duggal says that filming yourself is also giving into obscenity. Ranveer Singh's case comes to mind. He's right now facing charges for obscenity. At the end of the day, he's taken his own pictures and shared them, though he claims that one objectionable picture was morphed, or a picture that, claims where you could see his privates was morphed. Just some clarity on the law.
Yeah, well, law always lives in the gray area. So to expect it to be black and white may be a little too, extreme. And secondly, this is not the forum for a legal opinion, but I'll just want to clarify the nuancing here. When you talk about 67 and 67A, I'm keeping 67B aside, that's for child sexual abuse content, and there it's zero tolerance. When we talk about 67 and 67A of the IT Act, it draws from the equivalent in IPC, which is from 292 to 294. So if you remember the Lady Chatterley's lover and the Hicklin's test, etc., what really matters is in terms of whether obscenity is no longer now of the Hicklin test or what we saw of the Lady Chatterley lover. It is of community standards. And what is community standards is also an evolving phenomenon. Therefore, when we talk about is it really wrong to film yourself? Per se, it is not wrong to film yourself. When you delineate between or distinguish between 66E's wording and 67, the difference is this. 66E very specifically uses the word publishing, transmission, or capturing. capturing is the word which adverts to you filming yourself. And therefore, there delineates between you giving consent for capturing and consent separately for publishing or transmission. 67 is specific to publishing or transmission. It does not talk about capturing. And that's where the two sections apply in different scenarios. So the one cautionary tale, and I love the fact, Tamanna, that you've been using those words repeatedly, because this is something I always keep saying, particularly when it comes to what I refer to as from sexting to sextortion. The cautionary tale really is this. One, I do not want victims to fear that because they took certain imagery and shared within a relationship, and thereafter they are being subjected to sextortion or blackmail, they should not fear that they may themselves face consequences or criminal action and keep silent. So if I were to take this extreme stand to say that filming yourself and sharing yourself with one person also amounts to a crime, then effectively you will stop more victims coming forward to file complaints when they are being subjected to the offense of sextortion or blackmail. Right? So that's where the risk lies. And therefore, I want to give this clear clarification that victims should not hesitate, because they cannot really put themselves in the position of both criminal as well as a victim in the situation that is likely to happen. The second thing I wanted to...
Yes.
If I may just add one further cautionary tale for victims is, you have been talking about what is the remedy and is the law really effective. I just wanted to point out that thanks to a decision of the Supreme Court, which is now captured in the intermediary guidelines, victims are now given a very effective remedy for a takedown of content like this within 24 hours, without having to file a criminal case, without having to get an order from a civil court. They should all really use this through a complaint to the platform or the social media site on which these kind of content may be circulated or uploaded.
Right. So if even if you've shot your own video, if someone has put it out there, you can still go ahead and demand justice. Best practice would be not to. The consequences are not something that you can be sure of, unfortunately. Even if you are deleting that picture, whoever you sent it to is deleting that picture, it's no guarantee that it will be safe and private. And that's unfortunately the times we live in. Thank you so much, Dr. Bowanker, Pawan Duggal, and N S Nappinai for joining us on The Big Story this evening. Moving on to the developing